Today's video will help you stretch your hip flexors. Now the hip flexors are a group of muscles around here that allow you to perform flexion of the hip like so, as the name suggests. Now if you spend a lot of your day sitting down, your hips are going to be constantly flexed, and for a long time in this position can eventually cause the hip flexors to get really tight, which in turn may cause problems when looking to exercise or just generally move. So today we're looking at my favourite hip flexor stretch, and we're going to start in a kneeling position. One knee down, doesn't matter which. This other foot's at a right angle like so, and I'm just propping myself up here. So this is the hip flexors we're focusing on. What we're going to look to do is do a posterior pelvic tilt, and all that means is we're going to try and tuck up. So I'm tucking the bum under, I'm tucking the hips up, and already you may feel a big stretch just in the front of this thigh here, right at the top, and that is already causing your hip flexors to stretch. So that's what we're looking for. This is the main part. We're looking to tuck the core up, tuck those hips up, and tucking the bum under to feel that initial stretch. This is the part we need to establish before we can move on. Once you've got that, you can extend it by reaching over. When you go for the reach, you should feel an increase in the stretch. If you don't, then the reach itself probably isn't helping you in the stretch at all. So let's go through it again. Tuck those hips, feel that initial stretch. Now by me just leaning over carefully this way, I can feel that stretch increases because I'm extending up here and almost pulling up this part to increase that stretch. It's easier to do this by reaching over because you can actively reach, but some people kind of just reach over and drive their hip this way, and if anything, take away from the stretch. So it's important you're nice and controlled here, reaching up and then leaning from this area here, trying to further this stretch. Now to take this stretch even further and incorporate the quadriceps as well, we're going to use a box. So I'm using this box here. You can do this against the wall, you can use a chair, sofa, whatever you like, as long as you can get your foot on it. So all I've got here is my foot propped up on this box like so, and then I'm going to start that same position. We don't want to be too close to this box, so we still want to get the knee directly over the hip. I want to be at a right angle here with this leg, and we're going to do the same thing again. Tilt those hips. Now it's harder to get that posterior pelvic tilt when the foot's on, which should also mean you feel a much bigger stretch. Not only in the hip flexor up here, but down in the top of the knee here, and possibly all the way up the quad. Now your quadriceps connect into your hips, they also connect into the knee. So by being in this position, we're getting a good stretch on the quads as well as stretching that hip flexor further here. Same as before, once you've established that initial position and can feel that stretch, you can go into that same reach over, trying to further that stretch by extending up this way here. Now in terms of the reach, you can either reach directly sideways like I've been showing you, or you can reach slightly backwards at a diagonal angle. So get those hips tucked up again, reach over, and I'm going to reach slightly backwards and over this time, and you may feel a bigger stretch here. Now the final part of this stretch I'm going to show you is a more advanced version of the same stretch. We're really kind of doing the same thing. You don't need any box or wall, but it does take a bit more mobility, so you may struggle to perform this one. If you go through the steps properly, it isn't as hard to get into as it might look. I'm going to start in that kneeling position once more. All we're going to do now is take our hands down to the floor. Once you've got that, you're going to lean right, nice and forwards. I'm going to take my inside hand up. I'm going to turn my chest. So my chest is turning towards that knee, and I'm looking directly sideways on. Now that foot here, you're going to need to bring it up and grab it like so. That's the hardest bit. Once you've got it, you should be okay. You can hold it however you like. This is the quad and the hip flexor that we're stretching here. So what happens here is once I'm in this position, I'm going to drive the hips down to the floor as low as I can get them and pull that foot into my bum. Now, it's a really good stretch as long as I'm driving the hips down. So in terms of all those variations, the one you should really choose is the one you enjoy the most, whether that's because it's the easiest or the one you get the most out of in terms of a stretch. Incorporating this into your day-to-day may really help you loosen off those hips and make it easier to exercise or move.